Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, this is section 8.1, the Industrial Revolution. Undoubtedly one of the more important turning points in world history. Forget Europe, forget America. We're talking the whole thing in terms of how our life works today. This is one of the most major developments that we're going to see. So obviously, it's something we have to put a lot of attention into. Unfortunately, it's kind of with the way that our class operates, we always get to it around Christmas, so it doesn't really get the attention that I would love to get it, but that's life, and you should get used to disappointment. One of those disappointments has been my podcasting software over this break and my attempts to record this podcast. I'm going to have to split section 8.1 into two different sections. So 8.1, this is going to be basically the roots of the Industrial Revolution, and then the other part we're going to talk about why the Industrial Revolution started in England. So again, those are two shorter sections, and then the third one, hopefully we'll get to and can do that one straight. But I'm probably gonna have to split that one up too. So more podcasts, but they're just shorter, and you'll get over it, I'm sure, as time goes by. So what is the Industrial Revolution? Good question. Well, here's a good basic definition, let's say. Historical period in which the machines took over and killed us all. No, the historical period in which the machines began to replace human and animal power in the production and manufacturing of goods. So we are shifting from agricultural to industrial, in terms of the means of production. Agricultural and commercial society into a modern industrial society. So it's not even so much of the quality that you can make things, but how much and how quickly you can make them. And that's where these machines are going to be the defining factor. Along with that, we'll talk about this later and think about it just logically, is if you can provide more basic goods, think of the benefits that will have for your country and economy and population and people. I mean, it's something to think about going forward as we get into the Industrial Revolution. So before we get into the factories themselves and how they were created, let's take a little time, a little trip back in time with our friends, the merchants. In this famous painting we looked at briefly in the fall, the moneylender and his wife, these are merchants. They're working with their brains, with their minds, in some cases with their hands, but they are the ones that are investing their own money and making a profit. If you're a moneylender, you're going to give people your money at an interest rate, let's say, and that's where the profit comes, is that when you get the loan paid back, you get interest from it and you make the moolah that way. These kinds of people, the merchants, are benefiting from the commercial revolution, but we've seen them as a staple of our class basically the whole time. They're rising in political power thanks to new monarchs, thanks to the Louis XIV, who are looking to screw with the nobility. I'm going to say that's what it was. I mean, they're just messing with the nobles, giving merchants those positions of political power. So then you can wear nice fancy hats, a nice bonnet, and we talked about also maybe there's shift of focus away from, let's just imagine the Bible, the book that she's holding, to perhaps financial gain. It happens. It also happens because of exploration. Discovery of new markets, more populations that need different goods. You have an availability and a possibility now for profit. So all of that is possible for these merchants. In some cases, though, as they begin to become more profitable, who's going to do the stuff? Who's going to make all the goods for me to be successful? And that brings us to the peasants, having a good old time here with their fancy drink and bread. Piper is here with me, our friendly dog. Piper, how are you today? She's looking very entitled right now, laying on the bed. Piper would be a very good peasant. She would eat all the bread in the house, which she has done before, and she would lay around. Peasants don't lay around, so maybe you're not the best peasant. In any case, peasants, hardworking, agricultural, usually working on a noble's farm or a noble's land or estate. Some of them have their own independent and self-owned land, but certainly the majority do not. So that is your peasant class, and they play a big role in the movement to come called the agricultural revolution, in which we saw the advent of new technologies which begin to help the nobility start to be more efficient with the land they have, create more goods, or rather produce more of a yield, more harvest, more crops they can sell, more of a profit. So now they take the land. It's the story we talked about with the enclosure movement, where they start to put all of the land under fences. It kicks some of the peasants off of the land. Some of them will move to the cities. We've talked about them and how they evolve into, say, the urban poor. Urban poor, of course, had that big role in the French Revolution, the sans-culottes. But some stay, and those that stay in rural agricultural areas find extra work with the cottage industry. Of course, here come the merchants bringing their textile clothes, raw materials to the house, saying, I need 14 coats. And then 14 days later, here they come to pick up their 14 coats. It's a great system unless you're a merchant. Yes, you have that extra labor, but the problem is that you've got old Do Funny making coats over here, and old Dough Funny over there making other coats, and old Doofus Funny making some coats, and they're all different quality. Here's this coat's got a hole in it. That's not going to do you well in February in England where it gets cold. So what do you do if you're the merchant? You say, I'm not bringing my labor to the people. I'm going to have the people come to where the work is. I'm going to have the people come to where the work is needed to be done. Come to me. I can then supervise the labor. I can see what's going on. And that's where we have the creation of factories. So this first section, admittedly, not a whole lot of notes for you. But it's a story for you to grasp a progression of evolution of labor in the countryside. We start here really in Britain, but the same story is going to take place at different times across the continent, and we'll talk about that as well in the next section. Again, 8.1 will continue, so make sure you stay there. This is the first part of 18.1, kind of an introduction, and then we go into why the Industrial Revolution started in England here in this next section.